All right, guys, we're joined now by Casey Smith, winner of the Costa FLW Series, presented by Plano on the Potomac. Casey, congratulations on the win. Big deal. You caught them really every day, especially the last 2 days. Can you tell the folks a little bit how you did it?
Yeah, I was using a Kitech 4.8-inch swim bait, and I was feathering that through the grass until it would get hung up, and I would use the reel to knock it free to create a reaction.
Just kind of like a half turn or
like
a quick
turn? Half turn to pop it out of the grass as soon as it got hung. That would cause the bait to pop up, flutter back down by the time I caught up with the slack line, and usually within 2 or 3 cranks they'd try and rip the rod right out of your hand. So,
man, that's an awesome bite.
It was great.
For the rod, was it what rod were you using, and then what type of line? Because I feel like that swim bait on a EWG type hook with the screw lock, I feel like that's a technique that a lot of people have trouble keeping fish pinned with.
It is, and that's why I use the setup I use. Typically, if I was to ball head rig a swim bait or a jig head rig a swim bait, I'd use like a 7.3 medium heavy or a 7.6 medium heavy. Here I used a 7.6 heavy on 15-pound fluorocarbon. The 7.6 had enough tip to launch the thing out, have good sensitivity, and enough backbone to stick them and get them out of the grass on the initial turn.
Alrighty. Now, the grass you fished, I think you had like sort of one primary spot and then a couple other areas kind of near it. What were some of the key factors in that spot?
The key factor was a ditch. That was a migration point in and out of a flat. It was a flat with a hole next to it, and a ditch connected them, if that makes any sense. And the fish would move from the flat into that hole, up and down that highway, and I would intercept them in between.
All right, and it all loaded up with milfoil and stuff like that?
All milfoil, yeah. If you didn't pay attention to your sonar, you would never catch the contour. If you were just looking at the grass, you would think it was all straight milfoil flat, and the contour was the key. I was fishing the contour, not the grass. How
did you find it then? Because it seems to me like, were you going over it and you just sort of noticed something, or were you going over it in practice and you started to catch fish?
I noticed there was a lot of contour in the area, but I couldn't piece together how it laid out and how it went. I fished the area about 3 times in practice, and the 3rd or 4th time I was in there, my travel partner, Chris O'Brien, was in there with me. We fished through it together for about an hour, and when we got back together, I said I hadn't got a bite, and he came up and I said, "How'd you do?" And he said, "Man, I smashed them. They're loaded in here." And I'm like, how in the world are you catching them? And he had pieced together how that flat related to the hole in the ditch and whatnot. So I ended up spending an hour and a half, hour and 15 minutes that night. It was on Monday night, right close to dark. I graphed it, zigzagged it back and forth. It took forever. I almost came in the dark to make sure I understood how it laid out. I had a million waypoints on it to check the navigation routes, and that was how I did it. I really owe the credit to the layout of the area to my roommate for sure. All
right. Well, Casey, congratulations on the win. Obviously, you're now in AOI contention. We're going back up to New York, to your home for the rest of the division here. And man, it's awesome to come down and get your first pro level win on the Potomac.
It is. It's great. I'm excited to be here. I've wanted to try this for a few years, and finally jumped in both feet this year. I wanted to skate through this tournament and get home to the islands and Oneida, where I'm a lot more comfortable, and we did a little more than that, so I'm super excited to go home.
All right, well, the way you skated, you might consider some pro hockey afterwards. Thanks, man.
Thank you, man.